format is every bit as valid an artistic expression as sort of any length of movie, and we just have to kind of recalibrate our brains. So the movie began out of an experiment to see if I could potentially find a way to get these kind of stories into a broader audience. And then, of course, like as with any project, you sort of fall deeper and deeper in love with it, and it sort of starts to evolve into something else altogether.
Did you have Clancy in mind, early on, or was that something that you did have to go through, and do auditions before you finally, or maybe not auditions, but going through tapes and stuff and figuring, oh yeah, that's dark?
I didn't have Clancy specifically, but that's only because I don't really write for specific actors. I kind of write for ideas, and then I sort of start to think about the actors that would fill them. But I am very much a fan of character actors. I like shapeshifters that sort of inhabit all of these different roles, and we see them and we know them, but we don't have they don't come with baggage, Right. And on top of that, like actors like Clancy who can sort of move in and out of all these different characters. I mean, they're just brilliant. I mean, to do that takes such skill. It's almost a bummer that they're always playing second or third fiddle to sort of, the A-list celebrities, when like the real talent is sort of bursting out of the seams all around them. So when it came down to finding a great character actor that could sort of hold up to, all of this weight that the character in the script has, Clancy was on the short list right away. And I think he was one of the first people we went out to, and it really surprised me when he said yes. I remember I got a call from one of my producers, and she said, "Oh, Clancy's interested, and he wants to sit down with you." And I was like, "Oh, so he's going to do the movie?" And they're like, "No, you got to have lunch with him, and after the lunch, he'll decide if he wants to work with you." And I was just like, "Fuck!" Like, so I got to go to a diner and then somehow use my personality to win someone over. Like, that's a stressful thing.
No.
Maybe the movie doesn't happen if you don't like act right. So I went in and I met him in this diner, and he was just, I mean, he's intimidating because he's a very large man. I mean, his hands are huge. Just shaking his hand, I was like, oh shit. But we originally we really bonded very quickly. And it's interesting, as he told me recently that I didn't know was, as I was talking to him about the project, and as I often do, I start just rambling. I just start talking, and I don't really know what's coming out of my mouth. I'm just sort of saying everything. I wear my whole heart on my sleeve, which is sort of a detriment sometimes. So I'm telling him how I've been trying to get this movie made for 7 years, and everybody said no, but I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And in my head, I'm going, don't fucking tell him that no one wants to make the movie. Like, you're sabotaging the whole ship this whole time. And then he later told me just recently, he was like, the moment where you said that nobody would make the movie, but you kept pushing it, was the moment I decided to do it. He's like, because I like that. He's like, fuck the man that tells you how you have to make a movie. Like, the fact that you were still fighting despite all odds is the thing that made me want to go to battle with you. And I was like, oh man, wow, that's awesome, because it felt very different in the moment.
Right. It kind of felt, that was an aw shit that turned into being an attaboy.
Yeah.
So with this 7-year process, how much of it did you actually have to deal with, the beer bug, the shutdown?
Oh, the only effect that it had for me is basically, so we finished the movie last year around this time. We premiered at Fantastic Fest in September, so I guess a little earlier than now. And then we were ready. We were all lined up to do at least 23 film festivals internationally. Like, it was going, the thing that, like, I was like in a hole for several years making the movie, and all I kept thinking about was like, someday I'm going to like travel the world with this. I'm going to meet filmmakers. I'm going to see it with an audience. I'm going to drink all the beers. And it got pulled out from under us. That being said, I can't complain, because we did get, 2 or 3 theatrical screenings in festivals before things went away. And I have other friends who didn't get anything, whose movies came out. You were supposed to premiere at South by or Tribeca, and those festivals were canceled and their movies just went straight to streaming. So I consider myself lucky to have gotten a few, but you can't help but be a little bit bitter, like, the dream died.
Yeah. So I guess the follow up to that is that now that it's streaming on Shutter,
Mhm.
um, when the world opens up again, is this something that, I mean, is it like putting cart before horse at that point? You know, like there's no point in screening that, moving on to the next project.
Mm, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, that would probably only Shutter could answer that. I know that there's been a lot of talk about drive-in screenings, which have sort of, as you guys
Right.
probably know, have had this resurgence. Which is, isn't it crazy that they went away in the first place?
Oh
They're
yeah.
I
so
love
freaking cool.
drive-ins. Oh my gosh, I have really good memories of dodging bats at the drive-in.
Me too. I grew up in a small town in Maine. We only had the drive-in.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that they are. It took a pandemic for them to sort of
Hmm.
come back
Make
around in a big way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird because, growing up, I went to the drive-in and didn't watch a lot of movies when I was on a date, so it was a great place to go and park. And you just had,
Yeah.
a soundtrack there. But we need to take a quick break, Meredith.
All right, we'll be right back. Let me just pop this in here. Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out. And we're back with our special guest, Ryan Spindell, who is the writer-director of the Mortuary Collection, which you will find on Shudder. Get over there and subscribe.
Yeah, if you hadn't already, folks, I mean, we're 3/4 of the way through October, but Shudder, I found it because we were doing screeners. I'm a paid member. Actually, my membership came due today because there's a lot of horror stuff on there. There Shudder originals, but then there's also a lot of the classics, and you can get at least a 1-week free trial over there if you head over there now. But that brings me up to the question for you, Ryan, is how, with everything that was going on, how did it go from being in 1 or 2 theaters to actually getting to Shudder? How did you hook up with Shudder?
So we met with Shudder when we premiered at Fantastic Fest last year, and they were easily the most excited and ambitious of the sort of people who are interested in the movie. And I think it was a pretty easy choice for us to go with them based on sort of what they are. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say I had some hesitancy just going in, because I've been a subscriber for a long time too. I love Shudder. I think it's an awesome service, but I know that a lot of people don't. You can, I can tell my grandma to watch it on Netflix, and my grandma has Netflix, and there's no issues there.
Right.
And I think on top of that, we always kind of saw this movie as a bit of a gateway horror movie, in that it was designed to be sort of a bit lighter, a bit more fun, a bit more spooky, and hopefully something that you don't have to be a hardcore horror fan to sort of slip into, which sort of is kind of why it gets darker and darker as it goes. It's supposed to kind of ease you into it until you don't know how far you've gone, until you're already sort of dead center in the macabre. That's just a thing that's burnt into your brain. Netflix. And so I was like, I don't know about Shudder. I love Shudder, but is this the spot? And what's interesting is over the past, several months of sort of us gearing up with Shudder and just getting to know the people that work there. I mean, this isn't like a corporation. This is a ragtag outfit of like just super passionate genre fans working behind the scenes to make everything you see come to life. And that to me is inspiring. I always sort of veer towards the underdog in any situation. And then on top of that, I've realized that, if nowadays there's so much content being generated, and it's so easy to sort of go on a Netflix or an Amazon and have your movie pop up on the main page for a day or two and then disappear in the stacks. And with Shudder, they're expertly curated, and when a movie pops up on Shudder, the over 1 million fans are going to tune in, and they're probably going to watch the movie with whoever lives in their household. So you're talking about getting at least 1 million eyeballs on your movie which is wild. As a short filmmaker who's, just made shorts and screened them at festivals and that's it, the idea of having 1 million people watch my movie is sort of reason enough, I think, to take the swing.
I couldn't blame you at all on that, man. And Shudder, we've just recently started this relationship with them, but we found the same thing, that they're a great bunch of people to work with. They really want to help, promote the stuff, and we love the indies, and so it was just a perfect marriage to get with Shudder because we love meeting the writers, the directors. We're even going to be meeting some FX people here in the coming weeks, and,
cool.
We've got a relationship with Full Moon Features. We got Charles Band coming in a couple of weeks. And so I was just wondering, how you came about with Shudder, because like you said, they are a small operation. They're not a Netflix or a Hulu. And so it's really cool that they are out there hitting those festivals and getting in on the ground floor and finding the talent, because we firmly believe, and we've really seen it here in the last few months, that this is the age of the indies. The indies are the ones that are still out there writing and producing, and they're not chained to a big studio. And so, you're seeing Shudder. I know Shudder saw subscription increases over the last few months. And of course, all subscription services did, but Shudder is just seems like a really cool outfit to work with and to subscribe to. I've enjoyed it.
Well,
I do.
I was going to say my theory on that is that the indie creators, they're hungry.
Right.
That's true. And I think that's the thing. I feel like whenever I'm talking to somebody, it devolves into a Shudder advertisement, and I actually don't mean it to be. I don't get anything from advertising to Shudder. If anything, more people, I guess more people come to the movie. Yeah, I guess more people come see the movie, so maybe there's some sort of secondary benefit. But the truth is that even if I wasn't on Shudder, I think this idea of them creating a place specifically curated for us horror fans is something that's really special. And I sort of anticipate, especially with having, the growth that they've had recently, and now they're going to have a little bit more to sort of find new stuff. And I think they're going to start bringing in stuff at an increased rate. I have a feeling that it's not going to be long before genre filmmakers, it's the prime destination to where people are competing to get on the Shudder platform.
Right.
Because if you really want people to see your movie, why would you go anywhere else?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. I agree.
So, Brian, I was going to ask you, are there any other genres that you like to write or that you want to create in, or are you kind of like that horror, like that's where you want to be?
The geek stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty heavy into the geek stuff. I feel like it upsets me that horror has become sort of a bad word for some people, or it's lowbrow. I think that bums me out. So when I get that question, the answer I want to give is that I want to be all horror, and I want to make quality horror that sort of transcends the kind of stuff that audiences, that non-horror fans seem to think horror is when you ask them. If you ask my mom what horror is, she has a very sort of limited idea. And I'd like to bring a bit more craft and a bit more artistry to it, like, filmmakers like Sam Raimi and Peter Jackson and Spielberg in some of his films, and that kind of sort of style and substance to the genre. Not trying to soapbox. There's tons of amazing horror. There's more every day. I love it. But I think that it's definitely a genre that is not something to be ashamed of anymore. That being said, I'm really huge on genre bending. So in everything I've written, all my horror movies all have elements of comedy. There's sometimes some sci-fi. Obviously, lots of period aspects come into play. Drama. I kind of like it all, and I think that was kind of one of the beautiful things about the Mortuary collection, is it sort of let me play in all these different sandboxes. I got to do, just a straight B monster movie in a bathroom, and then on the flip side, sort of a heart-wrenching tale about marriage and devotion and how far you're willing to go to sort of break free of the binds that hold you. So what other genre space can I play in all those sandboxes and still make a movie that feels like one whole?
And I think there are a lot of people who have that stereotypical thought that it's all slashers and screamers and bloody, and and everything like that. And it really isn't. I mean, for me, the best horror is when I leave the theater and I'm still thinking about it, or I'm looking around the corner and I'm, because they messed with my mind, and I'm like, yes, I love that. Maybe it's a psycho thing, I don't know, but
no, I agree. I totally agree.
When there's that unexpected twist, because I mean, in the 70s and 80s, it was kind of like the stereotypical girl with the Daisy Dukes and the high heels running and screaming. And I'm like, take your shoes off, and screaming at the screen. But when you have these things where you're, when it makes you think, and it just scares you, because it's like, oh man, that could happen. That little bit of reality makes it that much more frightening for me.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and you bring up a good point. What's kind of interesting about horror is that it's such a tropey genre that it allows you to take those tropes and use them against people, because people have all of these expectations of what a certain type of character is going to be like, how a certain type of story is going to play out. And so, in a genre space where, the unexpected is expected, horror gives you all of these tools to play with that other genres might not have. I mean, again, I'm not doing deep delves. I think every genre has probably sort of strengths, but from where I'm standing, I see many more in this space than others.
Well, and I have to say, Ryan, again, without giving any spoilers, the way that you interweave the storyline and do the twist, I'll say, that was really and truly one of the best that I have seen, because a lot of the times you can see that stuff coming a mile away. Oh, this is what's happening. And I didn't see it until it was right as it was being revealed. I went, oh shit. And my wife went, really? And then you revealed it, and we were like, whoa, okay. And so we really liked that. The twist was really cool. I do got to know, because being the creep show and Tales from the Crypt kind of thing, do you have an idea for a sequel to this, or was this a total one-shot thing and you're going to move on to something else? No.
I mean, this is designed to be hopefully the first piece in an ever-expanding puzzle. Raven's End is a town full of stories. There's something creepy lurking in every dark corner, I think, of the town. We hint a little bit at it in the opening. And it was designed to build a world in which to play in. So whether that be some kind of series that we build out from, which I have, I probably have 23 more stories like ready to go within that world, or some sort of sequel, a prequel. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how Montgomery found his way to the mortuary to begin with, and sort of what his past entails. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something I want to play. And again, if it's if it creates an umbrella under which to sort of bring in really cool new stories, interesting filmmakers, and really kind of address the genre from a story first standpoint, which is something that I feel like is missing in a lot of instances. That's the dream. So
tell me a little bit about the house, the Victorian house. For some reason, it is very familiar to me. I know I've seen this house in several other movies. I mean, how did you secure such a beautiful location? I mean, for me, it's beautiful. I mean, you kind of created that in the center.
No, it's beautiful. It's legit beautiful. So what we did is, like I said, this movie was sort of made piece by piece over about 7 years. It was really 2 years of pretty much on again, off again production, and then sort of we made one segment first to raise the money for the rest. So that's how the super long timeline exists. But we're in Los Angeles, and we were making this movie very much in the fashion that we'd always made shorts before. So we had very small crews. We sort of had very talented collaborators coming on board, and we were shooting in these little week bursts. And because this movie is a period piece, and because it has this fantastic aesthetic, we were sort of shooting in all of our as many interiors as possible within LA. So we'd find nothing could be shot as is. Everything had to be, we had to find an old building. We had to paint it. We had to dress it. We had to sort of the costumes, the hair, everything. It was an insane sort of thing to try to tackle with such a small budget. But we managed to do it because we're resourceful and this is what we do. We fight and scrape our way to making a movie. And we had done everything we could in LA, but eventually we needed to find Raven's End. We needed to find the town. We needed to find the house. We needed to find the real sort of keystone of the whole movie. And so for that, we ended up going to Astoria, Oregon, which is where they shot the Goonies, the exterior stuff of the Goonies.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's this amazing little town on the coast of Oregon. It's like, right against the ocean, and it's sort of on a cove, and it has all the houses are Victorian and colorful, and it's foggy all the time. So it really was the perfect foundation for Raven's End. And then at the center of the town, there's this museum called the Flavel House, which is a giant mansion that was built by Dr. Flavel, I think, back when the town was founded, and it's sort of the centerpiece of the whole thing. And so luckily, we went in there and we met with the people that ran it, and they were fantastic. They also run a film museum, the Oregon Film Museum, right next door, which helped us. They're film lovers, and so once we got them on board, they really let us come in, and we basically transformed every single room of that house from the ground up. We just sort of went in and we turned the dining room into the embalming room. We turned the living room into the parlor. That Montgomery's office was a heavy lift. And then, of course, as they go deeper into the mortuary, it gets darker and creepier and stranger as you go. So, but yeah, I know it's a huge cliche to say, oh, the environment was a character itself, but in our case, it really was. And I always imagined that the house itself was sort of an extension of Montgomery Dark, and that Montgomery and the house are sort of one and the same, which I think is really cool.
I love that because I truly believe when you have a location like that and it really speaks to, I don't know, you think of Victorian houses and again, like you were saying, on location with the fog and everything, the weather, just the age, it brings along that creepy imagination and stuff. And I really do believe that they can become characters in and of themselves because, there's that saying, if these walls could speak,
right.
And so it kind of speaks to that. And it's a lot of fun. And I truly hope that we'll see more of it because it's a lot of fun. I mean, for me, again, it's just those twists and things, the unexpected, and just the cast of characters. I mean, Clancy Brown isn't the only one who was in the film.
No, not at all.
It's a huge cast, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do end up going back, whether it's a sequel or it's a series, you're gonna have to get the Screw You Creepo Kid back. His story has to expand there because we see him again at the end of the film, and so this kid's got to be a little messed up by all this crap going on in Go ahead.
There was actually originally a whole scene, a whole sequence at the beginning of the movie that we ended up having to cut in the editing room. That was a real bummer to see go. But essentially, the movie originally opens with Bill, who's played by Tristan. He's sort of riding into town, and in the original version, he's not delivering newspapers. He's going to meet someone. So he goes through town. He goes out into the woods, and he meets these two little girls, and they barter. And you realize that, sort of like in the fashion of It, there's a group of kids in this town who have been sort of watching this creepy house and believing it to be the center of like all the phantasmagorical things that have happened in Raven's End. So they're kind of investigating. And then Bill is this character who's like, he's an aspiring reporter who wants to get the story of why Raven's End is so fucked up. And so they sort of walk through the woods, these epic Oregon woods, and they talk about all the strange things that happens in Raven's End and how at the center of it, Montgomery Dark seems to be the force behind it all. And they're investigating. And the whole thing is set up to make you think, oh, this is a movie like It with kids. And then Montgomery shows up and they just burst away. And then we just leave them. And then we follow Montgomery. And it was awesome. It was a beautifully shot thing too. Like it had a very Spielbergy vibe, and the kids were great. They looked awesome and they were great actors. But ultimately, we realized that because this is already as a movie of 5 stories, introducing another set of characters off the top was just bumping for people because they were like, wait, are we with the kids? Are we with Montgomery? Are we with Sam? And it kind of created this weird trickle down effect where people couldn't find anything to latch onto. So they were kind of like meandering through the movie. So we waited to the very last minute. We like cut and edited and tried to make it work. In the very end, it had to go. And it really bummed me out because I really love the actors and what they did in it.
Well, man, maybe we can get that on a deleted scenes version.
Or
Yeah, the director's cut.
Yeah.
We are doing we had a good friend of mine, Nathan Beaver, is a behind the scenes guy, and he's been with us since the very beginning, shooting behind the scenes. So I think he started editing his behind the scenes about a month ago. I think he started off with over 12 hours of footage.
Oh,
and he's managed to whittle it down. He's been working his ass off to get it down to under 2 hours so we can fit it on the Blu-ray. But it's like Lord of the Rings level behind the scenes. It's like he talks to everyone, covers everything, special effects, sound, music, fog, smoke, camera. I mean, it's some in-depth stuff. It's going to be really, really cool. I can't wait to see it.
Well, Ryan, that's when you do the box set,
And folks,
exactly.
You gotta have the blooper reel too.
Get out there, get on Shudder, and watch this so that Shudder will turn around and give Ryan maybe the first series, or not the first series, but a series on there, or we get a couple of sequels or something. Because I'm telling you, you're gonna enjoy this. I am a horror fan from way, way back. I'm the one with a claim to fame that my parents forbade me to read Stephen King because that was all I read. And so I love horror. I really love this one, Ryan. We really appreciate you stopping by and shooting the shit with us. I know you've got someplace to be, but we've got one last question we always want to ask. But before we get into that, is there any, like we said, it's already out on Shudder, but is there any place that folks can follow you, social media you want to share or any of that good stuff?
Yeah. I'm super active on Twitter, Ryan Spindell. You can find me, I think, just by searching it, and Instagram as well. And I'm sort of always posting stills from behind the scenes and fun stuff over there. So definitely check me out and say hello if you like the movie, or if you didn't like the movie, then don't tell me, please. I'm private. All
right. Well. And we, of course, like we said, stick around when we go off the air. We want to talk to you for just a couple of minutes. But the question that we ask all of our guests here on Geek Speak is that if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
In regards to filmmaking, or just anything?
Anything.
You're talking to young Ryan.
You can say, go ahead and don't date that chick. She's a man eater. Or
she made me who I am. I think I would say, I like that question. Caught me off guard a little bit. I would have told my young self to travel the world as much as possible before life ties you down. I'm from very small towns. I spent a lot of who I am and the creative I became is from living in these sort of tiny towns. But at the same time, there was definitely a period when I should have left, and I stuck around for too long. And I feel like your youth is fleeting, and at some point in time, you won't have the ability to see the world in the way that sort of you dream of. So get out there and do it now while you can.
Love it. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us, Ryan. Folks, he is the writer and director of the Mortuary collection that is available on Shudder. Make sure you go and check it out. Ryan, anytime you got anything going on, whether it's on Shudder or anywhere else, be sure and reach out to us. We'd love to have you back. And just stay with us. And Meredith, you going to outro us?
I'm going to do it right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. This is awesome.
You bet. Thank you.
You've been tuning in to Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lochran, a Geek Insider presentation. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app and sign up for the newsletter on our website. We also have advertising opportunities through the website, podcast, and newsletter. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com. This has been a Geek Insider production. Thank you for listening. Geek out.